Talk me through this Rona first pick, because that's something that we haven't really seen that much as a first pick in previous patches.
Yeah, a lot of times it was picked up something a little bit later on in the draft, acting as a hard counter, but it started to rise in prominence and become this force that was just really difficult to deal with. And with the Lyra already off the board, all of a sudden this Rona pick becomes that much stronger. It kind of negates a potential Blackfeather pick in a way too, because you don't want to run into the Rona pickup.
This stack up ban right there tells me that Detonation wants to pick Sky because it's such a good counter against the Rona. So Kraken have a very tough answer right here that they're gonna need to deal with. Do they take the Sky or do they give it over, and that's a potential counter pick into the Rona?
I think with Taka banned already, you go ahead and grab the Sky right here. You run Sky Rona. That's a very strong duo.
Guys, who are you gonna cheer
put the
for?
Sky in the jungle, add the
Kraken,
crystal
make some
power.
noise, come on.
You put the Rona in the lane with the weapon power, and then grab yourself something like a Lance as your final pick, who's going to keep everyone in the same spot.
Right, Sky's a great point, but like I said, Blackfeather is a priority pick for Kraken. They played Blackfeather with Lorelei actually as a captain with Rona, which is actually a pretty strong combination, and they can secure the kill onto the Sky. However, Destiny does have Arden, but they will probably go with the Sky here. And looking at their past draft, Sky looks really good, for example, with like they could potentially do a Weapon Sky and even Baptiste with Arden is a very popular EA combination that they like to play. So we could see that come out as well.
I mean, Sky is one of the picks that we saw so much of throughout the autumn season in EA, just because of how well they can play her mechanically. They're one of the most, or some of the most solid players in all of Vainglory, the East Asian region, and the Nation is one of those teams. So with the Sky, with the Cruel, that's going to be a comp that just wants to kite away the Blackfeather, kite away the Rona.
Yeah, and not only that, but Kroll into the Rona. If you can get those weakness stacks built up on Rona, all of a sudden her Red Mist doesn't become anywhere near as much of a threat as it is otherwise. So that's going to be very, very important to see where he goes. But a Fortress. Want to see some aggressive play coming out of Kraken. That's how you do it.
We said they were going to be aggressive. I didn't realize they were going to be quite this aggressive. This is one heck of a composition. How are we expecting this one to go? Is this what we were talking about before? Is this going to be the same pace that we were talking about?
It was exactly what I was talking about before. We mentioned the Sky pick being a high priority. Fortress plays really well into it because when you pop your ultimate and the Wolves start chasing Sky, they can block her damage quite effectively because they block the forward rush that she tries to use.
Yeah, not only that, Fortress is actually a really good counter to Cruel because of mortal wounds, and you can burst Cruel down. Cruel has to sustain in fights, and against a Fortress, he can't really sustain because he's going to be bursted down by the mortal wounds and the missing health damage.
All right, so now that the draft is locked in, now that we're ready to jump into this first game, I want to ask you guys, who do you think has a favor coming out of this draft? Who has to be the ones making things happen, and who's the ones that are actually going to be having priority in this game?
I mean, we've been talking about it all along. Kraken is the team that needs to be making the plays here, and they have a composition that needs to be going aggressive right off the bat. They need to get that Fortress to 6. They need to get the Rona to 6, and then they can start winning team fights handily if they have that advantage.
All right, very quickly before we throw this one to the game, I'm going to ask you guys, who do you think is going to take this series, the full best of 2? We'll start with you, Sujay.
Kraken wins the early game, definitely wins the late game, so Kraken's going to take it.
You think Kraken's going to take this?
I think Kraken's going to take this game. Series, I think, is going to go 1-1.
I do think that Nation is going to win this as well, just because Kraken will have to push a very specific point in the mid game. I don't think they're going to be able to do it quite effective enough.
All right, so we have a split desk on this one. We want to know who you guys at home want to take this one as well. Hashtag Vainglory Worlds is the way you can get in touch on social media. But it's about time that we throw this one up to our casters and get ready to get into our first mainstream game of the day.
picks that you're seeing coming out from Team Kraken, and that's going to allow him to build up those item spikes a bit more quickly because your gold income in the lane is a bit higher.
Right now, though, Detonation are just shoving in Kraken. We're taking a fair bit of damage on the front line as well. Royal just punishing him with that forward barrage. A little bit of scuffle, but Babla should be all right to just back off rather sharp, although that smite takes him down to about half HP, and now Detonation are just going to have control of this front jungle.
And Detonation have got really good lane pressure as well. If they can keep themselves safe and avoid engaging, you know, especially into these sort of clumped up areas, they have really, really good lane pressure going up against that first turret. And obviously, the lane pressure that Team Kraken have in return just isn't good unless they find a fight to capitalize from it. You can't take 3 melee heroes, run them up to a turret and expect to siege it easily, because it's very easy for Detonation Gaming to defend that, especially early on. So Team Kraken are going to have a harder time pushing that advantage because they have to find specific areas and specific fights to then turn into some sort of push onto the turret. Not going to be the same way for Detonation Gaming. They're going to be able to defend a bit easier and siege a bit easier. And I'm wondering whether Royale goes for a Frostburn here, because I think, you know, it's something that started to come back in 2.10, and I think, you know, it would be a good item to pick up in this specific scenario because you're against a heavy melee composition that wants to dive you, so Frostburn could be a good pickup.
It could be. It does look like Detonation are going to come back towards the lane as Kraken did push that initial wave in. Although going fairly low at the moment, Babla's in a lot of trouble. In fact, Tatuki's just going to chase him up. Spectral Smite doesn't come out and kill him, but very low goes the Crawl, has to back off. Mortal Wounds chipping away at him as well. Can't heal as much up. That'll be Detonation Gaming disengaging here, and they're just going to have to play around their turret.
One thing that I really want to see Detonation Gaming be aware of is they are being very aggressive here. Yes, you have a Crawl. Crawl allows you to be aggressive in the early game. You can scale quite well into the mid game. But you do have to remember you're fighting up against a team that is designed to get some sort of advantage in the early to mid game. Don't make it easy for them. Your win conditions can also take you towards the late game. Wait for those items to be built up on the sky. Unless you see a really obvious opportunity to get a pick and get a really sort of dominant team fight, don't make it easy for Team Kraken to do that. Don't unnecessarily engage, because you running at them makes Team Kraken's job 10 times easier.
Well, we know Detonation know how to play to their win condition. They do it oh so well, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. Making sure they do not take the fight to Kraken, rather Kraken go for that all-in engage, and they can use their ability to kite back, and you can see it just happening there as well. Kraken making the 3-man rotation down to the bottom side of the map, and then rotating to their top side just to make sure they can catch the wave. Yeah,
they push the wave in, they make a safe trip to the jungle shop. They're going to get some item spikes. Frostburn is down. Breaking point straight up for Tatuki as well, which is something that we haven't seen on a Crawl for a while, but Team Kraken have set up a brush bait here. They will get spotted out by a flare. Not going to commit, and they're going to allow Royale just to move back up to the lane without being punished too heavily here.
Yeah, exactly that. Elder Treant, not quite finding its mark. Tatuki even took that versus 3 members of Kraken. They are going to rotate towards the lane again, but Royal should be safe with that Vanguard, or he does take a little bit of damage from Mr. Dog, but they should be able to back off.
And also, we're now at the point in the game where the jungle has become a little bit more closed off with post 4 minutes. Royale has got a really important ability, his Death from Above. That has been unlocked. That's going to allow him to position that effectively when he's getting dove on, or, you know, when he's trying to separate and then sort of piece out these team fights. This is actually a really good place for Detonation to be in. Kraken have not pressured them whatsoever in a composition that should really be looking to pressure. Now, you do have moderately good scaling on the CP Blackfeather, and Rona can scale up quite nicely as well. So if they find these perfect fights where they can just dive Sky and blow her up in a matter of seconds, there is always that out for Team Kraken. But the longer you leave it, the harder it gets. And Sky is only going to scale up more and more. Crawl is going to be used for that peeling tactic of just reducing the damage output of whoever's trying to put pressure onto Sky. So really, like the analyst desk said, it really favors Detonation Gaming the longer this goes. And it doesn't really feel like Team Kraken have an idea about how they want to pressure. They haven't even got close enough to putting enough damage on this first turret.
Well, they're going to move in now. Babla has picked up that Shatterglass as well, so completing his first item. Mua did pick up that Serpent's Mask a little bit earlier on as well. So, Power Spikes are there. No level 6 on Mr. Dog just yet, but he is creeping towards that, so we'll be able to unleash the Hounds very shortly.
The one thing that the Shatterglass does offer now for Team Kraken is that it does give them a slightly better mid ish late game on the Black Feather. You can play a ranged game once Black Feather hits level 8. You overdrive that on point, you have a massive range on it, you can get a lot of work done before you find that engage with the Fortress and the Rona. So the Shatterglass is going to give him a slightly better damage output, especially if he's finding the opportunity to land those on points onto Royale throughout this, sort of this mid to late game. So again, having the Shatterglass there gives a slightly different win condition for Team Kraken, because they're going to be a bit more able to put pressure on the squishy target of Royal.
Well, Team Kraken love to be aggressive in the early game, but they just have not done that. In fact, they've prioritized vision over everything else. They've been able to spot out Detonation Gaming more often than not if they do go for some aggressive moves. But right now, they are waiting for this fight to really happen, but is now just Mr. Dog Call a little bit out here. Should be able to get away rather easily, though. They do go for the big re-engage, but Kiz is just going to back off.
So I like that they've prioritized vision, but if you spend that much on vision in the early game, you better be darn sure that you're going to do something with it, and they haven't really had that opportunity yet. They put vision in the shop side of Detonation Gaming. That's a lot of damage going on to Royale there.
Yeah, Mua's taking a lot of damage as well. There come the attack of the pack. There comes the noise. Surfboard hits him. Gauntlet comes down as well. Two-man stun. Mr. Dog has to back out of there. Spectral Smite on top of Cruel. Can he just take him out? Mua's just surviving for so long. Spectral Smite takes him down to half HP. Into the flurry. Straight on top of Tatuki, ends up going down for first blood.
Damage just not there yet from Royale. He's not able to put the pressure on. He's gone for a broken myth second. Yeah, there's a little bit of shielding coming out, but goodness me, they're
Royal
diving.
going very low into the fray from Mua. Does manage to secure the kill on Royal. Turret dive competition works out perfectly, and even Babala surviving off that fight as well.
And Detonation Gaming are so desperate to take these fights, they just don't need to. You know, they can wait this out until you get 3 or 4 items on the sky, and then you could absolutely crush, whatever Team Kraken are trying to throw at you. Tatuki jumping in there by himself, he was trying to essentially 1 versus 3. Royale, with this build, just doesn't have any kind of scaling damage in these team fights, so realistically they need to hold off a little bit. I would be looking for a Dragon's Eye second item. It's a really good item on Sky. It's kind of what made Sky good on 2.10. He's gone for the Broken Myth. This is kind of an old school Sky build. Like, this is kind of what you'd see maybe 3 or 4 updates ago before we had the reworks to some of these CP items. So I would have been looking for maybe a Dragon's Eye second. Gives her some scaling in these fights, because this is what Team Kraken are kind of having now. These are kind of elongated fights that they're coming out on top of after they've built those breaking point stacks, and Rona obviously using that sustain.
Well, taking a lot of damage from those on points, but trades it back rather handily. Although another one, 480 damage.
That's what I mean about the Shatterglass. It gives you that potential. A Royal might even have to consider some shielding early on here if he's getting hit by them consistently. I think that was a good pickup for Babala. That could be really impactful in trying to shut down that one wing condition.
Tuki's coming in. Gauntlet comes out, traps 3 members of Kraken in place. Nice from Hell's Heart. Does actually stun up Babala for the time being, but it doesn't matter because Tuki is going down so low. Just healed up from the Spectral Smite. If he can get it off, he goes down again. Kraken find another kill, and that's the second one on the board for the Rona.
Goodness me, Rona sustained so heavily, and Cruel didn't go for a Poison Shift first against the Rona, who's definitely going to go Serpent's Mask. It doesn't give him the sustain that he needs in these fights, and Rona is going to sustain like crazy with that Serpent's Mask as well. I mean, if I was Tatuki, I would have been going for Poison Shift, because it gives me so much potential to shut down Rona. The fact that you haven't means that Rona just sustains like crazy. Breaking Point is one of these items on Cruel that I have a pet peeve with. Breaking Point itself is really bad at stacking itself, if that makes sense. By only having Breaking Point, it's really hard to stack Breaking Point. You need more items behind it to give you that damage necessary to get the stacks during these team fights. This is a build that I would have seen on a Cruel a year ago and said, okay, that's normal, but it's not so good now, especially on 2.10. Really not so good, and Poison Shift feels necessary in this game. Eve of Harvest has been finished up for VV, but again, Dragon's Eye I feel needed to be thought of here, because right now they're just losing the sustain war because they don't have Poison Shift, and they just don't have the damage to get through all that sustain coming up.
Well, they're initiating the fights as well.
Yeah.
Gauntlet's in, and then Tatuki just runs at Babala, trying to take him down, but you can't ignore this Rona. She just jumps in, red mist, that Breaking Point stacks instantly to 20. It feels like in Detonation Gaming they've just fallen time and time again. This is their second fight in a row they've lost now, and Royal is just not putting out the damage he needs to be. He's going to go for the small engagement. Tatuki going extremely low. Nice Warriors offensive in. Good Crucible as well on the Death from Above.
Yeah, they get out scot-free. The only thing that Detonation Gaming do have going for them is it's 11 minutes now, and although Team Kraken have taken a couple of successive team fights in their favor, no first turret has been able to get sieged efficiently because, again, a triple melee. Oh, that's a massive amount of damage.
Fountain's going to get popped as well. Mortal Wound to stop the healing on Royal, and they're still going to go for this turret dive. Mua is taking the aggro from the turret, so had to back off. Death from above doesn't quite find anybody just yet, but Babala looking for those on points.
Yeah, and he's going to have that siege advantage now that he's post-level 8. That's huge damage onto Tatuki. Tatuki just not able to survive here.
Yeah,
Royale's going to back off.
First turret goes down. Kraken going to find their first one on the board. 0-3 right now. Detonation Gaming so uniform in the way they play. Know their win conditions, but right now, they're the ones doing the engaging. Maybe, perhaps they need to just kite back and then play around this gauntlet.
Yeah, a gauntlet should be used defensively, I think, in all cases. Kiz just goes up and shops a little bit. And also, it's very difficult to shut down a Rona, but, you know, Rona has Red Mist as the majority of her damage in some of these team fights. So Atlas Poldras isn't super effective against Rona because Red Mist isn't affected by her attack speed. So it's so difficult to shut down a Rona when she's ahead because there aren't really items. Oh,
Mr. Dog's going to get stunned from that death from above. Will he be able to get out? The answer is yes. Well, does use that into the fray to get a little bit more distance and just present himself in the lane. They are extremely low. They've got to be careful taking this chunk damage, although Tatuki is on the sidelines as well, making his presence known. Mua has to actually pop that flask to keep himself alive for the time being.
Atlas Poldras has been finished. It'll be good for Mua when he's not in that Red Mist. You know, it will slow down that attack speed. Rona has a very high
from Royal, but he can't do much else. That Kraken's still knocking on the base.
Oh, Babala's so close. Here we go. He's going to continue. Oh, the death from above all over the
Royal
place.
is so low. He needs to get out of there. They've still taken 2 turrets. The Crystal stands between them and taking the first game of the series. Royal has to take down 3 members of the Kraken, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. Team Kraken secure themselves game number 1.
And that came out of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.